Hello there and welcome to the Curation and Biodiversity Informatics course, the first week. Natural history collections with 4 presentations, 15 minutes each. This is the first general overview of natural history collections. My name is Kenneth Lundin and I'm a scientific curator at the Natural History Museum in Gothenburg. So I will guide you through this. Natural science collections, as you see in the next slide here, they support diversity and modeling of all life on Earth and even in rocks as a part of collections also. But these are also essential knowledge resources for sustainable development and lots of things. Also, these long-term studies of changes in species composition and all this, and keeping track of what's happening in nature. And this country, Sweden, has been a leading country for this, for taxonomic facilities, for its long tradition of since 400 years, even before Linnaeus. And now, the next slide. So, and these natural history collections, they are research infrastructure actually, very much for taxonomy, systematics, evolution, environmental management, so on and so forth. And it's been more and more used by different agencies, like this ESFRI, is a European collaboration. Use these different all these different facilities. Yeah, the next slide. As we are now in Europe here, a large concentration of the natural history collections. So in all, it's about 500 million specimens here. 55% of the world's assets, and 80% of the world's known species are represented in the collections. And there's 25,000 scientific visitors per year at the museums in Europe, 10 million public visitors, so it's really big for visitors, and even bigger from the web, 25 million web visitors per year. This is some figures from the DISCO and also a European collaboration partnership as a platform that I will talk about later. The next slide. I work at the Gothenburg Natural History Museum on the west coast of Sweden, and I work with marine invertebrates. And also as a marine biologist, I even work with some bigger animals. So you see, this is the whale exhibit. With on the floor is the world's only mounted blue whale. It's a juvenile, so it's only 16 meters, half the size of a fully grown adult. On the right side, it's a skeleton of it, and there's a sperm whale hanging. And these collections could be used for many things, for DNA, systematics, what has changed. Some studies of the DNA was closest to something genes we can find now in the Antarctic. You can see what's in the bones, you can see the skin, and it is often very much used for the public also. You can open the mouth and go inside and meet Santa Claus in Christmas time. Collections are very, very important, as I said, for long-term studies. You can see what changes in species composition that could be because of human impact, and what is natural cycles. Now we go for the next slide. So natural history collections, to explain how it came to be in a historical context. So the history is from the early 1700s, so even before that, it was like this small private collections by wealthy people or royalty, or like showcases or something you can marvel around. But this was more and more organized So more like in the early 1700s, the Royal Society in Stockholm, they needed some place to store the things, and then Linnaeus, when he was active, he was collecting things of all kinds for plants, herbariums, even zoological and mineral collections. So they needed more and more. So it was more like a scientific collection, a more organized, gradually. So this, you need the museums like this. You see in the lower right corner is the Natural Museum in Sweden. There was started in 1819, but the house was built far later, 100 years later. And this was also the area of colonialism and imperialism. This big empires who wanted to explore the natural resources and bring them home. So that was also one of the driving forces, and even to study what you have in your own country. So this was the big era of field data collection, late 1800s, and even up to 1920s, 1930s, out just collecting to see what we have. Nowadays it's much more focused and strict for the purpose of a certain collection to follow something. And another thing is later in the 1800s you started to have type collections. That is when you describe a species, you deposit it at the Natural History Museum because it's the name bearer of that description, and of course also could be a series of specimens. So it's available for the scientific community globally to have a reference when they are describing new things. So that's very important also. And there's also the general importance of provenance, of the how, when, where something was collected. That is utterly important for the value for any kind of scientific collection. And after a while we had these exhibitions for general education, started with Owen in England. Those are the late part of the 1800s. Before that it was just the collections. And even today there are some museums actually that you have just collections. It's still museums. Yeah, and you see here is Carl Linnaeus when he was young, in his Samid suit. The left corner, lower corner is Jägerskiöld. He was the head of the museum in Gothenburg when he did his marine surveys for 20 years almost, just to investigate what kind of species we have. And I will come back to that in a later presentation. Oh, next slide here now. Then we see the home page of the Swedish National Museum of Natural History. They have 10 million specimens in the collection. In Gothenburg we have between 6 and 8. And that's something you should do. You should visit some of the sites for the bigger natural history museums. One of your assignments. And they do a lot of things with the collections here. A lot of researchers, a lot of doctoral students that do analysis in different kind of ways. Yeah, and then if we move a little bit outside, we're still in Europe, in Berlin, at a museum for Naturkunde. They have more than 30 million specimens. Large new modern facilities behind this facade, this wonderful, nice facade. They still have the pock marks from the war. A lot of activities, lot of very much science. also for society at large. But Germany have several collections, a lot of collections, but you move to Holland, they have the collection at Leiden called Naturalis with 40 million specimens, because they focused all the collection at one facility that is very new, very well designed for the purpose, and the huge effort for digitization and ordering all the collections. Some countries have these efforts of focusing and gathering all the collections at one place and one institution. So if you go to France, Muséum National de Histoire Naturelle in Paris, also very big, 68 million specimens according to their homepage. Big exhibition and botanical garden together with it, and lots of collections, lots of research going on. If we go to London, England, they have the Natural History Museum with 80 million specimens. And it's getting very crowded, so they will soon expand with a new facility at Harwell outside Oxford in a few years. Because that's the thing, if you have an active collection, you collect more, because that's the way to have an active collection, but then you use the old collection as well. So then it expands as a part of it. So some museums often have they are outsourcing the locality of the collection, but you still need to be active with it. You have the next slide here. And the winner of them all is in Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History in Washington, United States, that have sporting 145 million specimens. And it's a really large compound with these storage facilities, research facilities, education, and the exhibitions also, naturally, of course. Lots to see on the homepage there. So what's the global number of specimens in the collections? Maybe 1 billion. I haven't really found. You can try to search for yourself. So this is like, if you see the concept of a global museum, what it's used for is much more than just the collections. It's like a platform for where science meet the public, and you have this educational outreach, you have the teaching and research, lots of curriculum on different levels, from small schools to university. You have these sample providers working in the government, nature management, nature resource management, using the collections. And this, of course, now pathogen identification and monitoring could be something, using old collections that wasn't really expected before, but it's like, that's the nature of it. You find new ways to use the collections. And of course the science, conservation, biology, ecology, evolution, and so on and so forth. So absolutely, and also it's a meeting place for ideas. So the sky's the limit. Okay, and then we move to the next and final slide for this time. Okay. Yeah, and thank you so much for watching, and see you again for the next slide. We continue with the overview of a museum and more about the ideas and the uses of the collections. Yeah, goodbye.